Hi everybody. Welcome to the first video for beeswax. So this is for our second grade at Shining Star Waldorf School and all who wish to do some beeswax with us. So first, if you're joining us from not our second grade, you're going to need some beeswax. You can buy them from stores that supply Waldorf materials, Mercurius. Online you can find some beeswax. We're using a little piece of green and a little piece of red. Second graders, you should have this in your packet. So find these colors. You're going to need, for the first one, you're going to need the green and the red. So the first thing you're going to do is you want to warm up your wax. You don't want to get your wax wet, but you can use your warm hands. Some of the children, we're going to be working on the green first, so sometimes we like to take the piece of wax that we're not using quite yet and put it under our arm, or perhaps slip it under our shirts so it can warm up against our skin. So sometimes during our beeswax, we'll hear a short story, or we'll talk about what's happening in nature. So while I'm doing a little bit of chatting, take your green wax and be making it into a ball. That's often the first step to our beeswax. So once, on a beautiful spring day, I was walking down a path, and it was the early spring where the cold was still on my cheek and I still had to wear a jacket. And on this spring day, all was just starting to come out. The trees had no leaves yet. The cherry blossoms were just starting to make buds, not close at all to making flowers yet. But every day I went on the same walk in this spring, and I would come across a very empty little patch. Just a little bit of dirt, barely any grass. And I never took very much notice of this little patch because there was very little there. I didn't see very many birds there. I didn't see a lot of any little footprints or anything there, so I didn't pay much attention. Now one day, the tiniest little sprig popped up through the dirt. It had been waiting to pop up. For underneath the dirt, secretly growing roots, were little bulbs. Then another popped up, then another, then another, then another. And as I walked past every day, I thought, oh, it must be grass. But I took not very much notice of it, for grass is all over the place. And a little bit of sparse grass doesn't stand out to me too much. But the little sprigs got bigger and more came out, like a little spray out of the ground. And there were many, many of them. Now, if you've made your ball, then you can start elongating, almost like a teardrop. And you can start making it a bit longer. You can start using your fingers to pinch and to pull and to warm your beeswax to create a longer shape, just like the sprigs coming out of the ground. Well, soon enough, the sprigs grew a fat, little round spot on the very top, a little plump, round part at the top of the blades. Well, I didn't take too much notice of it, since I wasn't paying attention to the area too much. Now, as the days went by, that little part of the top got a little bit thicker, and it got a little bit thicker, and it started to change color. Some of them changed purple, some of them changed white, some of them changed even into yellow, And some of them changed even into pink. And some of them changed into red. Okay, so working the wax, taking your time. If you're not staying up with how my wax is going, that's okay. You can do this on your own time after the video. Well, again, I was walking the same path as I always did this spring. And one day, the sun shone so brightly that indeed, the little tops of each one erupted into a beautiful flower. Well, these flowers are called crocuses, and as you know, second grade, and anyone who's watching, you know that these flowers are some of the first examples of spring. So we're going to be making these flowers today. So here we have elongated, almost like a bulb at the bottom, and a long skinny part on the top. When we work from wax, we try to work from the whole to its parts. Now, if I want a part to stand out, I can pinch it with my hands into a very thin, kind of like that, and then try to slowly pull to the side, pinching back and forth. And you make these your own, so they're individual, they're unique, but these can be the little tiny leaves that grow up with the crocuses. Now, if you can find crocuses around your house, that's even better, because then you can get a really good look at what the crocus looks like out in your yard or in a park nearby, or even looking up a picture of the crocuses. They have long, skinny leaves. And I just wanted to make a few of them just to make a little detail. It's almost looking like a little cactus right now. And if a little bit breaks off, that's okay. You can put it back on. The most important part here is the center. This is the part we're going to put our flower on. Okay. Now remember, our red has been warming up this whole time. So make sure that your red wax is somewhere where it's getting warm, under your knee, in the crook of your arm, anywhere that it can stay against your skin so it can really get nice and warm. Sometimes I like to use my fingernails, and I might pull down and kind of help separate the leaves. So maybe that looks a bit, I like that a little bit better. I think I'll do the same to the other side. Sometimes I like to bend my wax back to make a part a little stronger, so I just did that right now where I bent it back on itself and put it back together. And I like it to be nice and close. For when I saw these crocuses blooming in the sun, I noticed they didn't have too many leaves, these ones, but instead just a few. So I just did 2 and then the main stem. Now after that part is done, and maybe to your liking, you can smooth it. You can make it maybe more of a stand on the bottom. Yeah, and you can maybe make the leaves go out a little bit, like that. It smells really good. Okay, now we're going to get our red wax that's hopefully nice and warm. And I'll just keep this kind of out so you can see it. Make that your own. The red is going to also be made into a ball. A ball first. A little ball. And then instead of making all the individual petals of mine, I'm going to make mine the bud right before it erupts into its flower. So this is going to look like much like a teardrop. So students, if you want to, you can make individual petals and then put them together, as I know you guys know how. You can really make this your own and make it something special and unique. Now, the teardrop looks just something like this. And that's what the flowers really looked like to me when I saw them in the spring sun. And sometimes I like to take my nail and make a few little scratching marks, if you can see that, to make it look like the petals are curled up around each other. Yeah? So the second thing you're gonna need, you might have to go fetch this. I will have to just step over here and get it, is a pencil. So the pencil or a knitting needle will work too. You're gonna take the pencil and you're gonna put it in the bottom of the bud. Go ahead and make a hole. That way your bud can fit right on top of the stem, and then you can really put it together just like that and make sure that they're nice and secure together, pinching with your fingers. And we have the first signs of spring. Mine hasn't even blossomed yet, but it's about to erupt, just like the trees I see outside my house right now, just like the buds I saw right before they erupted. And something I've noticed too, students, is that the buds, the flowers themselves, they close at night and they open in the morning, and they close at night and open in the morning. So mine maybe is in the evening, and maybe later I can even change it so it opens. So make your crocus your own. You can add more leaves to it. You can use a little bit of the pencil to add a little bit of texture to the leaves if you so choose. You can add another one. And there we go. Add it to your nature table if you have a nature table at home. Remember that wax will melt, so don't put it in direct sunlight. You want to put it somewhere where it won't make a big melty mess. And avoid putting it in your pockets, because your body heat is enough to melt the wax. So you want to keep that nice and just room temperature. If you notice it's starting to melt, then it's probably in a spot that's too hot. And wax is very hard when it's cold. So if you're working in a really cold place, it's going to be harder to work. So you might want to go to a sunny spot while working on it and then put it somewhere where it's not so sunny and warm. Okay, that concludes our first wax class for the second grade at Shining Star Waldorf School with Crocus. Good job.